So this is another possibility. And in case like, GEODE, geode, Devanshi. Okay. So then in case you have some memorable flowers or photographs, then that also you can preserve for lifetime. As I'll show you this coaster, as you can see, it has real flower and the leaf. Even you can create amazing, keychains, pendants, earrings, jewelry. So many things are possible. But what is most important is you need to understand the medium and how to work with it. Okay, because it is a liquid medium. So you need to understand the flow and everything. Then only you'll be able to create a perfect end piece. So I'm assuming that I have beginners here. So I'll be starting from scratch and give you a brief introduction of the materials, why we use that. Okay, so the first thing that we need to start is a base. And here I'm taking a MDF base. It's a wooden base. Okay, in case you don't have wooden base, go ahead with glass, ceramic, PVC board, or plywood, or metal plates, or even canvas board. All right. So these are the possible bases that you can select. You can even work in silicone molds, but in silicone molds, it's completely made up of resin. So in case you go wrong anywhere, as you are still learning, the wastage will be more. So I do not suggest to the beginners that if you want to try beach theme or anything, start on a base rather than doing it on a silicone mold. Fine. So this were the possible base that you can use. The second most important thing that we need is resin and hardener. Now in our daily life, we use MSil or Eraldite. Okay, so that is also resin and hardener, and that is in solid form. I would just request everyone to switch on the cameras. It's feeling so odd just teaching the black screen.
Guys, everyone quickly turn on your cameras. Rashi, I want you on the screen. Preeti, everyone, Megha. I can see few names here. It would be very difficult for me to spell out 100 names. But guys, quickly turn on your cameras. We want to see your happy faces and reactions here, right? Ma'am, you get an awesome energy, right? When you see all the happy faces here.
Exactly.
Exactly, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Just be on camera. Nobody is watching us. It's just we watching each other. Okay, even if you are in your pajamas and all, don't worry. All right. So I was just talking that in our daily life we use MSil. Okay, so that is also resin and hardener. And second is Eraldite, which is also resin and hardener, but that is in liquid form. But it is not clear, so we do not use it for art purpose. So the resin that we use for art purpose is known as epoxy resin because it is clear. It remains clear and you can use it to add flowers, photographs, or anything. So there, whenever you buy resin, it basically comes in two parts, resin and hardener. Okay, so you will never get resin separate or hardener separate. You get it as a combo. Now, for today's project, I'll be using resin from the company that is Eporex. Okay, I use different company resins like Chemixol, Fortune Chemi, Jags, Ashas, Tulsi. There's so many companies in the market. So don't worry, you can buy any resin, but there are few things that you need to check before you buy your resin. So the first thing is that it should be a casting or a coating resin. If your resin is casting coating, it will remain clear for many years. To just explain you, this poster was made 3 years back and still you can see the transparency. You can see me through it. If I would have not taken casting coating resin, this would have turned yellow in few months only. And I would have not been able to see the flower in it. So that's the reason it's advised to take casting coating resin. Now, when you buy the resin, there are a few points here. So you need to stick to that points. So the first point says the ratio in which you need to mix your resin and your hardener. Okay, we have two parts, resin and hardener. So in that, what is the perfect ratio in which you need to mix your resin and hardener? So for my resin, the ratio is 2:1. That means 2 parts resin and 1 part hardener. I'll have to mix it up. Second point it says is the minutes or the time for which I need to mix so that I get a proper mixture. Fine. So for my resin, it is 3 to 5 minutes. For some resin, the ratio can be 3:1, like mine is 2:1. The ratio can be 3:1, 1:1, and the mixing time can be more or can be even 1 minute. So that's the reason, whatever company resin you buy, just stick to the instructions given on the board. Now, third point, which is very important, which may or may not be written on the bottle, is the pot life. Now, what do you mean by pot life of your resin is, what happens once you mix your resin and hardener, it is in liquid form. After some time, it starts solidifying. Okay, it starts curing and it becomes like solid enough that you cannot manipulate. So the workable time after you mix your resin and before it solidifies is known as the pot life of your resin. Okay, so the pot life for my resin is 25 minutes. So once I mix my resin and hardener, I will have only 25 minutes to work, after which my resin will start curing and it will become hard. Okay, now what if I'm working with bigger projects like 4 feet, 5 feet? 25 minutes will not be enough for me. So that time I will select resin which has pot life of around 45 to 60 minutes, so that I have enough time to plan out my complete project and I'll not waste my resin. Okay, then comes the curing time. So the curing time is the time after which your piece is completely dry and you can functionally use it. So to explain, if I have made a tray, after my curing time, I can functionally use it to serve my food or anything. If I have made a clock, I can functionally add the machine and hang it. It will be no more sticky or no more bendy. So just be careful. Pot life and curing time is completely different. So for my resin, pot life is 25 minutes and curing time is 24 hours. So after 24 hours, my piece will be completely dry and I'll be able to use it. Okay. Now, when you buy the resin, which has a pot life of 45 to 60 minutes, that means the reaction is very slow. So even the curing time will not be 24 hours. It will go to 36 to 40 hours. I hope I'm clear with this point, because this is the most important point when you select your resin and hardener. Okay. So pot life and curing time. So we just discussed about base, second resin. Third thing that we need is a blowtorch. Okay, this blowtorch, it has a trigger here, which you press, a flame comes out, and this is basically used to get rid of air bubbles. So when we mix resin and hardener, there are air bubbles which gets created inside it, and it's very important to get rid of it. Let me just show you a piece. So I just show you this piece. Okay, it's super glossy and has a shiny effect. I just removed all the air bubbles, so it's smooth enough. But here I didn't remove, and you can see uneven surface and the pits. Okay, so just to explain this piece, point, I have kept this piece where in the sand part I purposefully didn't remove the air bubbles, so you can see the difference what happens if you do not remove the air bubbles. So in order to have a super smooth surface, it's very important to remove the air bubbles. Yes, Divya, I'll come to the substitutes. Don't worry. I know the questions that will be popping up in your mind. So yes, if you do not have blowtorch, the second option is isopropyl alcohol spray, also known as rubbing alcohol spray, which you can easily get it in the medical shops. You can even use hair dryer or heat gun. But 100% removal of air bubbles may not be possible with hair dryer or heat gun. Okay, because the heat is not that much that it can burst the air bubbles. Harshita, I just told if the pot life is more, for example, the reaction is slow enough, like, for my resin, pot life is 25 minutes. In case if your pot life is 45 to 60 minutes, then the curing time will be slow and it will go up to 30, 36, 40 years. So always select your resin according to your project. So I just told that to remove air bubbles, we just use a blowtorch. And if you do not have a blowtorch, you can use isopropyl alcohol spray, which is also known as rubbing alcohol, and you can easily get it in all the medical shops. Okay. Isopropyl alcohol spray is not harmful. It's used to sanitize and everything. That is available, like, easily these days because of COVID. You can, yes, it's isopropyl alcohol spray. Okay. Now you saw, let's move further. So this were the three things, and the fourth, you saw my pieces. It had some of the other shades. If you see here, this has a sunset shades. This has good cool water shades. So we need to add something to the resin to color it. So that is known as pigment. So we basically have pigments which come in paste form. Okay, these are in paste forms. And then we have colors which are in alcohol form. So they are in liquid form. As well as we have pigments which are in powder form. And the powder form are mostly with the metallic shades. So they are known as mica powders. Okay, so we can use three different types of colorants: paste pigments, powder pigments, or alcohol ink. Fine. Preeti, I'll just show the products at the end. Let's just see, because we need to do the practical part also. Don't worry, I'll show you at the end. Okay, so these are the pigments. But as a beginner, I would not suggest you people to invest in all the shades available in the market. So what is the next option? Okay, you may say Fevicryl colors. Yes, we will be using the acrylic colors, but we will not be using it in the resin, I repeat, because this question will come when I do the practical part. We will not be using this acrylic paints in resin, but we will use it to paint the base, and then we will use only one pigment, that is white pigment, for the waves. Why we don't use acrylic paints in resin? Because Indian brands acrylic paint have lots of water content, and water and resin, they are enemies. So when you add this acrylic paints in your resin will form lumps, or your color will form small droplets, but it will not color your resin. Okay, so that's the reason we do not use acrylic paints in the resin. But yes, we will be doing it practically. So I'll show you. We will be painting the, yes, you can use acrylic on cured resin, that will work. Okay, you can use it to paint and all. So I'll show you practically how we prepare the base using the acrylic paints. Then we pour the clear resin and hardener, and then create waves using one pigment. So you will learn how to mix the pigment also. All right. So, and then we need small things like a cup and ice cream stick to mix the resin and hardener. And as resin is harmful because it is a chemical, so it's very important to wear mask as well as the gloves, because we don't know our skin type. So we don't want our skin to interact with resin. So always wear gloves and wear mask, because what happens when we heat resin, it doesn't harm as such, but the fumes should not be inhaled. So that's the reason we wear mask. Okay, because what happens when you heat, sometimes if you are not careful, the resin can catch fire. And yeah, we will be heating it, right? We will be heating it. So that's the reason we need to wear the mask, so that we don't want to inhale the fumes. All right, now let's just move quickly. I hope I'm clear with the materials that we are using. You can just show thumbs up or emojis or yes? All right, great. Thank you so much. So for the sand part today, I'll be taking a brown acrylic paint and a skin tone, that is flash tint. Okay, because I don't like to have a very dark brown as my sand. So I'll use this. And for water part, I'm using a cerulean blue shade. Okay, cerulean blue shade and a green shade, that is light green. Okay, so it will give us a bit of aurora sky kind of effect. The water effect will be bit completely different. Kashish, company for which? These are the Fevicryl colors. I'll come to it, don't worry. Okay, so now resin is Eporex, but you can try whatever resin you get easily. Don't worry, just take into consideration the points that I told you. Fine. Now I'll quickly turn my camera towards the table. If you have any questions, just type it up. I'll just check once I turn the camera again. Okay, so here is my coaster, and as I said, I'll be painting the sand part with a bit of skin tone and some brown. So you need to decide how much portion of your coaster you want as your sand. According to that, you can just add. So I've just taken this much, and here just merged a bit of brown to this. So I would like to have my sand part till this point. Okay. And just add a bit more of color. You can just make it dark or even light upon your choice. You can even make the black sand like I have done in the previous coasters. I'll just show you again here as I have done black sand. Okay, so you can even do that. It's up to you. All right. Now quickly wash your brush. And as I'll be taking blue and green, so what I'll do is my blue is a bit light. So you always need to take the lighter shade toward the sand and the darker shade away from sand, because as the water gets deeper, it will get darker. Fine. So I'm just taking. You can even take teal and green. That is also good. This is teal blue. Even this goes well. You can take teal and turquoise. Whatever shades you like, you can just take. Just see that one is light and one is dark. And whenever you paint, just go from left to right. Do not stop in between to have a very good strokes. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll just paint it till a point where I want my coaster to be blue. And see that your edges are nicely covered. Now I'll just stop here and take my green, but I'll not wash my brush. Okay. Whenever you want to blend the two shades, do not wash your brush, and without washing, take the another shade. So by using this acrylic colors, you even get an option of so many different shades to try, which you cannot do it when you're using the pigments, because they are quite expensive. So start with the acrylic paints, understand the medium, how to handle it and everything, and then you can start exploring with the other pigments. Now just cover up the complete coaster till the end. And now start moving from this point till the end of your water. Just quickly move up and down from one end to second end to have a very good blending. If you want more green, then come from top to bottom. If you want more of blue, then go from bottom to top. Once you have this blended shade where the two different colors don't have a demarcation line, that means the merging is done and you can stop. All right? Just remove the excess paint from the sides. All right, so I just turn the camera and show you once again. Yeah, I have used MDF base. So this is how the shade looks, bluish green. Okay, so once you blend it, you get this shade effect. You can even take different shades. Like here, I have taken orange yellow. Same way here, I have taken sky blue and cerulean blue. So you can just play with the shades upon your choice. Now what I'll do is I'll just leave this to dry. And by the time it dries up, we will just, no need to mix water. If you mix water, your base will get wet and it will take a lot of time to dry. But, and anyways, these colors are already, very liquidy. Muskan, I just explained in the starting what are the bases that we can take. Whichever base you have, you can select from that. Okay. So now I was just saying that acrylic paints do the work of primer. So if you have primer, you can use primer. If you have acrylic paints, you can use acrylic paints. So when you, I just showed you the pieces. So if you see the back side also of my pieces, they are quite what do I say, clean and smooth. So basically there are no resin droplets or, more of resin drips and all. So how do we get that completely pure, finishing is, you need to measure accurately the amount of resin and hardener needed depending on the size of your project. Okay. If there's no audio, am I audible? Pallavi, you can just leave and join back. Okay. So I was just telling that you need to measure your resin and hardener in a proper quantity depending on the size of your project, so that there is no wastage or there is no resin falling down from your project. Okay. Oil paints will take a lot of time to dry. Yes, you can give it a try, but acrylic paint is something that will be very quick and very good. Yatin, I'll just explain, inform about the vendor details in the further classes. Just wait and understand the process. Okay. Things you will easily get it from Amazon or anywhere. Understand the techniques. That is more important. So I was just telling that how to calculate the proper ratio of resin and hardener needed, that we will be discussing in the further class. But right now I'll just tell you that for this 4-inch poster, you need 10 grams of your resin and hardener mixture. Now comes the theory part. I told you that my resin is 2:1 ratio and the required quantity is 10 grams. So we will calculate it as 7 grams of resin and 3.5, that is half of 7, as my hardener. Okay, so my ratio of 2:1, 1 is 3.5 and double of 3.5 is 7. So my 2:1 ratio is maintained, and the required quantity of 10 grams is also sufficed. It will be 10.5, but I need 10, so it sufficed. Okay, so always measure your resin and hardener. Otherwise what will happen, if you do not measure, agar aapka resin zyada ho gaya, your piece will remain bendy and it will never dry. If your hardener is more, what happens, you will see cracks in your piece. Okay, so it's very important to measure resin and hardener properly. And to measure, I'm using this weighing scale so that I have accurate resin and hardener. And always check if the resin is by weight. As you can see here, it's kg. If it's by weight, you need weighing scale. If it is by volume, then you can use the measuring cups. Okay. Now I'll just wear my gloves and the mask to start working with it. I'm just turning the camera. Yes, you can wear the surgical gloves, and I'm also wearing the normal mask right now. You can even wear the what to say, N95 mask or whatever mask you have. Okay, so don't worry for that. I'm not wearing mask right now, otherwise you'll not be able to hear me. Okay, so here is the weighing scale. So I'll be measuring 7 grams of my resin. In case by while measuring, in case instead of 7 it goes 8, then see that you take hardener half of it, because we need to see the ratio has to be 2:1. Now I'll take my part B, that is hardener. Okay, so we have the required quantity. Vinay, it basically happens if the proportion of resin and hardener is not proper. Kashish, resin and hardener, as I told in the starting, you will get it as combo only. So आप resin जहां से लोगे, hardener भी वहीं से मिलेगा आपको, अलग-अलग कंपनी से नहीं लेना है. All right. And Vinay, basically, if your proportion has gone wrong, then it can happen. What you can do is just measure properly and apply a very thin coat of resin and hardener over that poster again. Fine. So here I have taken my resin and hardener, and as you can see, it is very clear like water right now. So I will be using this ice cream stick. This is silicone stick because I work. How to use resin in molds? In the same way, but in molds you cannot use acrylic paints. So for that molds you will need pigments. But if you don't want to waste lot, by the time you are understanding the resin, go with the base. Okay. Now the most important thing is always mix your resin and hardener very slowly. Otherwise, you will end up with lots and lots of air bubbles, and you will not realize whether you have reached the end point and you need to stop mixing or not. Okay, so mix very slowly. And second most important part is scrap the sides of your glass as well as the base so that you have a proper mixture. Now, as you see, I just started mixing my resin and hardener and the reaction has started. So my mixture has turned turbid white like lemon juice. Okay, it's no more clear like water. Now it has turned turbid white like lemon juice. That means the reaction has started. Okay, so now you have to mix slowly and scrap the sides as well as the base. You need to scrap the sides of your glass as well as the base so that the mixture is completely proper mixture of resin and hardener. None of your resin particle is stuck to the glass. None of your hardener particle is stuck to the sides of your glass. Okay, mix slowly, slowly, slowly. And then comes the theory part. What was the time for which we have to mix? 3 to 5 minutes. So within that 3 to 5 minutes, what will happen? This resin and hardener will turn clear again. Okay, so now I have just started mixing. It is turbid white. Now it has to turn clear again, and that will happen within that 3 to 5 minutes. Aarti, you can take glass, PVC board, metal, ceramic, canvas board, acrylic. All right. So these are all possible base you can take. Now there must be some indication that tells that you need to stop mixing. So basically, once we mix for 3 to 5 minutes, the resin will turn clear again. Okay, it starts turning clear again. And then you need to start observing from top of your glass. Okay, not from the sides, from top of your glass, and see that when you move your ice cream stick, there should be no lines forming behind your ice cream stick. To explain that, when you add a drop of oil to your water and you move your spoon, you will find the lines or the swirls forming. If that kind of lines are formed, that means your mixture is still not ready. You still need to mix. But if you do not find such lines, that shows that your mixture is completely mixed and it's ready to pour. Okay, so these are few of the tricks that tells you that, okay, your mixture is ready and it will be perfectly fine if you pour. My mixture has turned clear. So I'll just mix it one more minute because I still see the lines. And scrap the sides as well as the base regularly, every interval. All right, now my mixture is clean and it has again turned clear like water. All right, so now let's just check. Yes, our piece has also dried out nicely. Now we will not be, yes, Pallavi, I said that after mixing it, Nitin, if you use blender, this resin, as the resin and hardener will dry, but your blade will get, chalked up. So do not use blender. You can use your hands only, and the ice cream stick will do the work. And Pallavi, basically what I told, that once you mix it for 3 to 5 minutes, like for my resin, the resin will turn clear. But then you need to know that, okay, now I should stop mixing and I should pour. So that time just observe for lines behind your ice cream stick. Like you add a drop of oil to water, and if you move your spoon, you will find the swirls. If that kind of swirls are created, that means you still have to mix. If there are no swirls or lines, that means your mixture is ready to go. Yes, you can use ice cream stick. I work on daily basis basically with resin, so I'm using this reusable stick. Okay. So I was just telling that now this piece is also dry, but I will not be placing this piece directly on my table like I used to paint it. Okay, paint करने के लिए मैंने directly रखा था. I will not do that thing. Why? In case this is not leveled properly, my resin will start dropping down and this piece will get stuck with the table and it will be a wastage. Okay, my piece will be gone. So what you need to do is take some leveling thing. So what I do is basically I use the same acrylic paint bottles because they have equal heights. Okay, they are of equal height. So I place them and over that I'll be placing this. So my piece is leveled up. Even if my resin falls, I'll only have the droplets. My piece is secure. All right. So I'll turn the camera. I hope I'm clear till now. In case any question, just type it up in the chat box, okay? All right. So I have just placed my bottles here and I'm placing the poster here. Now, as you have seen in these pieces, I do not like to add this resin to the sand part because it gives a very good 3D look, embossed look of the water coming over the sand. So you must be having question what to do for this part. You can use varnish on this part where you have applied acrylic color. So that part will also be sealed. And as a resin, it is a bit thick. So it will give you a 3D look over your sand. Okay. So here also I'll be adding my resin and hardener mixture only to the water part. Do not over flood your piece. Add as and when required. So I've just taken this much and first thing I'll do is I'll just spread it. You can use your ice cream stick or your fingers as you are wearing the gloves and spread it and cover each and every edge as well as the corner. Now if you feel that you need some resin, then take. Okay, so to give a bit of natural look, what I'll do is I'll just take some resin and get it over the sand part. Now, if you have isopropyl alcohol spray, then you can spray that here. And if you have the blowtorch, you can just blowtorch it to remove the air bubbles. And when you are using the blowtorch, make sure first see that every edge and corner is nicely coated. If you find dryness, just do that here itself because once it dries, you cannot manipulate it. All right. Now, whenever you're using this blowtorch, make sure to have 1 finger distance and move quickly. Okay, all of the air bubbles have bursted. There's a dust particle, so I'm just trying to remove that. All right. Now I have yes, it is a very satisfying work. Torch, you can just check on Amazon, you'll get it. Okay, so I have a very little quantity of around 1 gram of my resin and hardener left. Now, if I add my white pigment right now and just pour it, it will not give me very good wave effect. You know, it will be very cloudy like this, which I don't want. So what I'll do is, I need to wait for my resin and hardener to just thicken up a bit, like sugar syrup or honey consistency. If your white pigmented resin is thick enough, then only it will stretch and break to give you the cell effect. All right. So what I'll do is, we will just be waiting for 5 minutes for this resin and hardener mixture to just get thick enough with the consistency of sugar syrup, and then we will proceed with the white waves. So do not leave the session. We are still not done. We still have to mix the pigment and create the waves. I'll just mix the pigment and then leave it for it to thicken up. Okay. So let me just do that. So by the time our resin and hardener just thickens up, we will just do the doubt solving, and then Sakshi will also be having some surprise. Arti, I already told that to avoid the droplets, you need to measure the resin and hardener properly. And I use blowtorch. Right, so what I'll do is, I have this empty cup here. And in this empty cup, I'm just taking a bit of my resin and hardener mixture. Swati, we are not adding white acrylic color, we are adding white pigment. Acrylic colors cannot be added in the resin. Okay, so I'm just taking very little quantity of resin and hardener in this. And to that, I'll just show you. This is the ice cream stick. Spatula, what you can do is, after like 24 hours, that is a curing time, you can just twist it and